Hello and welcome to the NextPlay Spoilercast, a series where we talk about your favorite video games and films in full spoiler territory. Today, we are talking about the fifth episode of HBO's The Last of Us Season 2, titled Feel Her Love. I'm your host, Brad, and joining me today is Jamie
Hello.
and Berto.
Hello.
All right, so starting off in this episode is another flashback. Well, is it a flashback? I couldn't really tell. Would you say it was, or like recently from the present?
I think it was a flashback, but on first viewing, I didn't realize it was. I will
Yeah.
say that. Maybe I'm dumb, but like I didn't realize it was a flashback at first. But yeah, from what I've seen outside, it was, which explains the state underneath the hospital.
Yeah, okay. So in Seattle, we see Han Rahan meeting up with Sergeant Elise Park, who is leading the unit responsible for clearing out the hospital. She explains they cleared out the ground floor to the sixth, but explains that the basement is ground zero for the outbreak day in Seattle. She recounts the grim scenes her squad relayed to her, including her son, Leon. Elise says her son explains that they were infected by spores in the air. Han Rahan says that the sergeant resolved and contained the situation heroically. So this is an interesting start to the episode because it introduces spores into the universe, which didn't exist in season one.
Mm-hmm.
How did we feel about this introduction? I am glad they have finally done it, but I also think it's weird that they're only finding out about it, what, 20 years into the outbreak or however long it's been. It's it's strange that it suddenly appeared. Jamie?
So this sort of circles back to what I said in the last episode, where it's just like we have to have these things happen in the game, so we have to get there somehow. And the active decision to not have spores, without spores, that whole final scene of this episode doesn't make any sense. So they have to have spores there. So unsure if they're just going to make it that it was just like, oh, because of the state underneath the hospital, spores just are contained there, and that's how they can explain it away. Because like spores in this world, where not only do you have spores, but you have them on a hive mind, like humans are fucked. Like no, it doesn't matter if they have like immunity to the cordyceps or anything. Like they would just all get torn apart if they had spores in this world, in this interpretation. So I think it's good that they added it because I really wanted that final scene to be in, hence the background. But yeah, it was basically retroactively fitting it in quickly so they could have that scene occur.
I think they might have been implying that, like, when there's like the disease, like I feel like they've seen the disease in the air, and I feel like in season one we even saw some form of spore in the air, not necessarily as bad as it was in the basement of the hospital, but I feel like they're implying like in really like heavily infected areas like
Yeah.
the basement is where the spores can like kill you and turn you um just by being airborne. Berto, how did you feel about this late introduction?
Yeah, it's interesting. I agree with everything that you said, Brad, actually. Um, I think they're going to use it as a. These are the hotspots, and in these hotspots, there's going to be spores. That's it. And it only will exist in this universe with regards to that. Because then you can literally contain it, no pun intended. I like the scene as well because at the end, you obviously have the reveal that the son was the one. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's sad.
Mm.
But yeah, no, it's a good introduction, I reckon.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed that scene.
Mm.
Um yeah, and it was quite emotional because you saw how brave the sergeant was being, despite like she literally, I guess,
Lost a kid.
she trapped her son down there because he was infected. So
I saw someone do the take that she did the opposite of Joel, whereas like Joel was not willing to sacrifice his kid to help the world, whereas she was willing to sacrifice hers for the betterment of her group. So completely
But
different.
she's WLF. She probably killed a lot of people too. So revenge
Oh
is
yeah,
still
yeah.
bad. Yeah.
well, yeah, you can't argue with that, can you?
Just me being a smartass for no reason.
Everyone's bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so it's Seattle Day 2, and at the theater, Dina is writing down notes about what she hears on the Wolf's radio communications and is trying to route the best way to the hospital by triangulating. Pretty smart of Dina to do that. I didn't know what triangulating was either until she explained it to Ellie. But yeah. See, she is so leading this whole operation. Like,
She really is.
Ellie felt like a
the main
backseat
star.
player here.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like, what do you want me to do? Like, she's just sitting there, like,
It's
They,
strange.
they made Ellie feel kind of useless here. Like, I understand, like, Dean is the one that's going to do this. She is the one that does it in the games and finds out the route and stuff. But just the way they sort of framed it here, Ellie is just like, oh, I'm just going to go explore. See ya, tell me when you're ready. Like,
Yeah.
it was super strange for your main character to just feel like such a passenger.
so yes, Ellie does go and explore the theater and takes to the stage and starts to sing Better Days by Pearl Jam, one of Joel's favorite songs. Also love the inclusion of this as well. I'm sure this song will come back maybe in the next episode, I would say. But yeah, I think she only sang the first line of it, which is how it happens in the game, I'm pretty sure as well. Can't remember.
I forget.
I think this was their sort of way of trying to snap her back into revenge mode. Like when she started singing it, if I was ever going to lose you, and then she just stopped. I think this is really the only, as I touched on the last episode, sort of inclination that she was feeling that revenge. Like you saw her mind sort of wandered towards the brutality. But still, yeah, not as angry as I want my Ellie in part 2 to be.
Yeah, nah. She's still cracking jokes. Still being a little wise guy. Oh well.
Yeah. It's interesting. I know like Ellie's meant to be like hell bent on revenge, but like I also like the lighter sides and like the lighter dialogue between her and Dina as well. It really, I don't know. Like this story is already so dark. Like I like that little bit of reprieve from everything.
I see both sides of it because I think I've said it before. Like part 1 had those moments of levity, which is why the game's so memorable for me. My all-time favorite game. Whereas 2 didn't have that. It was constant, just intense from start to finish. Yeah. But I think once again, it's just like because I the scenes that occur just once again just sort of kind of contradict where her mental state is at. You know what I mean? Joking around and then she's brutally beating someone to death with a pipe. But you don't see that transition. It just sort of from 0 to 12 straight away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
That's fair. So Dina has found the safest route to Lake Hill Hospital and says that they need to cut through a building to slip past some wolf patrols. They also discuss the Seraphites and how they are very culty and seem very similar to the Amish, which I thought was funny. This is the funny shit we need in this show. The two follow the route where they see Seraphites slaughtered under a mural of their cult leader. Ellie says Dina shouldn't be here and that she was so stupid for bringing her. Dina talks about her past and how her mother and sister were killed by a raider, and that the raider was the first person she ever killed. Dina says she would have hunted that raider down forever had he got away. So I really enjoyed this scene. I thought it really almost aligned Dina and Ellie's thought process in the whole revenge thing. She's basically saying, Ellie, I've been in your shoes. We're doing this type thing. And also, just in general, it was good to get a bit more backstory for Dina as well, because I'm not sure we ever heard about Dina's family in the video game, unless there's some kind of hidden collectible I didn't find.
Yeah, I reckon it's under a trophy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, she does touch on her family a little bit.
Is it actually?
They're exploring.
I was just joking.
In the open world, she touches on it. The open worldy section near the start of the game. They have a little bit of discussions back and forth, but nothing to this extent.
How did you feel about Dina, like, almost giving Ellie permission to keep going? Like, any thoughts on that?
My biggest thought about it was I loved it. I thought it was great, like you said, Brad. Like, more character. I think her as an actress is fantastic. The Dina show must go on. But like, I go back to my issues that I had in the last episode, which was that desire. The you don't have to be. I don't think they probably conveyed Ellie's desire to want this more than anything else, as well as they could have. And this is where, like, you were talking about the moments of levity, or like, the joking, the wisecracking stuff. Like, that's great, but the thing that made the game so memorable to me was that one defining goal. I'm coming after you. I'm gonna get you. It's that nervousness that you played in the game, and so like, this speech was like, this is awesome to me. I was like, yeah, but where was Ellie's train of thought during this? She was just listening. She's just like absorbing this information. But I haven't had that moment yet with her. Maybe it might come. I don't know.
I feel like we get glimpses of that, particularly at the end of this episode. But it's like, I kind of wish it was more like how Abby was at the start of the season, where like every scene she was in, you could tell she wanted blood. Like, she wanted that revenge. Like, no matter what was happening in the scene, you saw that anger in her face. You saw how much she wanted to kill Joel. And yeah, I do think that's missing a bit from Ellie.
Just quickly, I love this for Dina's character. Once again, reiterating the opening, really puts Ellie in the back seat, like, of the show. Really, like, I got, as Berto was saying, you got that raw emotion. Like, I more believe that Dina was out for revenge and wanting to do that brutality to individuals from this scene. And sure, on one hand, brilliant performance, but as Berto was saying, and I'll just piggyback off that, they haven't given that scene to Bella to sort of implement and take us to where she's at mentally. But yeah, again, we've touched on it in almost every episode. Like, I want a spin-off where it's Joel and this version of Dina. Like, Dina's fantastic. I absolutely loved her performance. That raw, like, you got the screenshot here. That one screenshot just says so much in terms of her emotional state, what she's gone through, and why she's acting the way she is. And I do love that they sort of tease, like, oh, well, how did you get to Jackson? And she refuses to touch on it. So I'm not sure if they'll ever do a sort of flashback to how she got there. But yeah, I just want to explore this character so much more now. This scene was great. Yeah, I love Dina.
Yeah. I want to point out that, like, I do think Bella Ramsey is fantastic in this role. It's just, I think the way the role was written, that it's not really doing Ellie, the character, justice. So, yeah. So anyway, Dina does say the ball is in Ellie's court and that she will return to Jackson if she wants, or will continue if she wants. And Ellie decides that they will keep going. No shock there. That would be very anticlimactic if they just went
Just go
home to
home.
Jackson.
I'm done.
The two enter the unpatrolled building and agree that shooting is a last resort and that running has to be the first option. They are eventually cornered by a large group of stalkers, which may just be one of the most tense infected scenes we've seen in the show so far. It was scary, that scene. Like, I really enjoyed, like, the whole thing. Like, I love, like, the whole idea of stalkers and how they're so, like, I don't know, it was just very, like, freaky, like, seeing that, like, the flashlight shone on them. It was,
And then
very
like
scary.
scampers away. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's unsettling stalkers.
Yeah.
They were always my like favorite enemy to face off in the game because they were so intense and you didn't know how they were going to react. So I love the portrayal that they've done in the real life show. And like when Dina had locked herself in the cage and they're literally just like, oh well, and they just start ripping the cage off. I was like, Jesus, they're like, if stalkers were mass produced, the world's ruined. Like, there's no way you get around these things. Yeah, very intense, creepy scene.
Yeah. Provided a lot of jump scares in the game for me, at least. The girls are forced to shoot their way out of trouble after being pinned down and cornered by the stalkers, which ends up saving them as Jesse finds them and comes to their rescue. Berto, how did you feel about this whole scene?
What good timing, eh? To find that one exact spot. Correct. What is the history of the stalkers again? Were they like an evolution of like the infection? Is like you become them after being infected for a long point in time?
I don't think it's time relevant. Like, because, yeah, I don't know. Jamie, do you know?
Put me on the spot. I don't exactly know, but my interpretation, so take it with a grain of salt, would be it is got to do with prolonged exposure, but I guess it also would almost be body type. Like maybe not everyone turns into a bloater. Maybe some people with different genes or whatever will be more stalkerish. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know if it's ever defined. And if it is, I certainly don't. So again, I'm just talking out my ass.
It's not a trophy. That's why you don't know the answer.
That's why I don't know.
Yeah, it's not a collectible.
So it does say stalkers are the second stage of the infected, and they take between 2 weeks and 1 year to reach the stage after exposure to the cordyceps brain infection. But I would agree. I feel like not all infected turn into a stalker. Because that doesn't make sense, because we didn't see any in the first game, did we?
Not
Did
from
we?
memory. No, I don't think so. But
I think
could
they
be
were
wrong.
only introduced in part 2. I'm pretty sure.
I'm confident on that, but again, I can't recall. It's been a while since I played the first game, to be honest.
Yeah. So the WLF finds the three and chases them into a park, which also acts as the Seraphites' territory. Wolf stops the pursuit, saying, "We don't go in there," which definitely is not good for the three musketeers. Jesse says he found the girls by using the map they left in the theater and that Tommy came with him. They come across a group of Seraphites torturing a wolf member, cutting him open from the torso to his pelvis in a quite graphic scene. How did we think of the torture scene? Not really a torture scene. They did it pretty quickly. Jamie?
I just want to touch on it. Once again, even the dialogue between Jesse and Ellie. Ellie was like talking about how they are triangulated, and Jesse's like, "Yeah, I know you wouldn't have figured it out," implying that he knows that it would have been Dina. And once again, like, you've got another character just saying, "Hey, the main character's pretty dumb." I thought it was just it's kind of stupid. But yeah, we'll brush that over and we'll talk about this scene. I think it was a good way to portray a scene that's probably going to happen in season 3 and give you an idea of the precarious nature of what a certain character gets themselves into in season 3. But it was good to see it because like we got the hint at it last episode of post disembowel what had happened to them, and now we see this sort of cultural, almost religious type sacrifice whilst they're all chanting like I can't remember exactly what they were saying, but yeah, very creepy. And once again reiterates what the fuck is going on in Seattle.
Yes. Beto, what about you?
I love the contrast of light and dark in these scenes. I think it was done very well. Even the initial, when they're hiding and it's the torch, how it just comes out of nowhere and you're like, oh, this is cool. And I think from the game, it's exactly how it goes too. From memory. But I liked
well,
it.
Ellie's by herself. Well,
you hear the whistle, which is still creepy, to be honest. Like, you just hear, I can't whistle. And then you just get hit with an arrow, whereas here it was someone else.
Well, yes. The Seraphites become alerted to the trio's presence, with Dina copping an arrow to the leg. They split it. No, not the knee.
I was just going to use that joke. Damn it.
You got to get in quicker.
I almost wrote that when I was typing the script down. They split up, with Jesse and Dina escaping together and Ellie trying to act as a distraction. She eventually loses the Seraphites and heads to the exit of the park before seeing the hospital right within reach.
How convenient.
It very convenient. Outside Lake Hill Hospital, Ellie sneaks by the patrols with ease and crawls through a little manhole into the hospital undetected. Very also convenient that she got through all that. You would think they'd have the hospital heavily patrolled. It's just so strange that she just crawled through some grass and got in.
It was quite a horrible, way to sort of break in, too. Like, she's messing with all the grass. Like, it was pretty obvious to anyone, even without the dog. Like, I was like, this is the worst break-in I've ever seen. But I mentioned it before the show. For me, I was watching the episode during the daytime, and it must have been a slight glare. I didn't even know what Ellie was looking at when it only split second showed the hospital. So I was quite shocked when she randomly was there. So I guess that was me for watching it during the daylight. But yeah, it was a super quick thing. But yeah, again, it's very much a lot of convenience in this episode, I guess.
In the hospital, she encounters Nora and confronts her scene by scene from the game, asking her where Abby is. Nora says she's sorry she had to see that, but the little bitch deserved it, which starts a chase scene through the hospital. Any commentary on this? It's basically literally scene by scene for the game. Apart from,
it's almost word for word.
Yeah.
Really?
Apart from, I think she throws a hard object at her in the game, and in this she threw, I don't know what it was, sanitizer or something. I don't know, something
not hard.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't just water. So
yeah, I think the only thing, once again, if we're just talking about convenience, she just was in the room. Like I think at one point Dina mentions what part of the hospital she's in, but I don't know if anyone's been to a hospital before, but they're not easy to navigate. So she just happened to be in the same room that Nora just rocked up in. Again, you just sort of have to just go on the ride. But
just go
there's a
with
lot
it,
to just
yeah.
ignore, yeah.
Well, it almost seems like Ellie was waiting in that room for Nora. Because she
Yeah.
just came out from the shadows.
Came out of nowhere, yeah.
Yeah, so I as I said, I can't remember exactly what part of the hospital I think Dina heard that she was in, but she was able to find it and just wait there. Good old Ellie.
Very smart. Nora has no choice but to escape into the hospital's basement, which we already know is not the place to be. Ellie follows Nora down there to discover the horrors that an overgrown cordyceps environment can look like. We also get a glimpse of Sergeant Park's son, Leon, who was mentioned at the start of the episode. It took me till the second watch to get that. Glad we kind of saw to the extent of how this person got taken over by the cordyceps.
I love this scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so...
Set design is insane. Like
It's
I
horrific.
watched the inside the episode and how much they actually went to the detail to put in for a scene that's just gonna not be thought about anytime soon. Like it was just so quick, but
what I
stunning.
mean. The design
They're gonna win
so
some
far
sort of
offsets
award
it.
for it.
Yeah, like it's so intricate and again dramatic and beautifully shot.
Yeah. Ellie eventually finds a dying Nora who has succumbed to the spores in the air. Ellie interrogates Nora and says she doesn't care what Joel did. She starts beating Nora with a pipe in an attempt to get Abby's location before cutting to the final scene of the episode. Does anyone want to talk about Nora's, I guess, death scene before we move on to the final scene?
I'll just quickly. So the comparison to the game, I would say the game did it better. So with the game,
I agree.
the camera focuses on Ellie, and obviously you have the input hit square, and then you're actively participating in the brutality. But it's also the fact that like with the few hits, blood's like spraying on Ellie during it, and then it cuts to black, and then you just sort of assume what happens after that. With here, we get a few hits. I think she's hitting her in the leg and all that sort of stuff. But I think Bella's performance was good, but just the way it was framed in the game, I think, was just a little bit stronger. It was almost beat for beat, just from the slight little changes. Because I think there's a line she mentions in the game. She's like, "Oh, I can make this quick, or I can make this so much worse." And I think once again, that line is so revenge filled. Of like, I don't care if I torture you exactly the way that you guys torture Joel, and like it's her reinstating what she just heard from Nora and saying like, "Oh, we killed that little bitch," and taking that out on her, and she loves it. It's that same sort of curiousness to brutality that she has as a child in season 1 when she was watching like Joel punch away at someone. She was just watching. And I think I know there's another scene where she like cut a clicker open and all that sort of stuff in season 1. Like she has this sort of sadistic nature in her, but I just don't feel like it lived to the same level as the game, at least in my opinion.
I love Bella, but I don't know. I feel like she has a bit of a baby face, doesn't she? Oh, sorry, don't they? Which I feel like, I don't know. A baby face, it's hard to capture certain emotions with, I would say.
I think if they had given her at least the same line, because I really like that line. I did a post on my Instagram with that line because I love it so much. It says so much about the character in only a few words and where she's at in that moment in time. But they just don't give it to her, which is a little bit. She just asks, "Where is she?" And that's so like in comparison to the game. That's all. I think Bella has the range to be able to do it. I'm just shocked that they didn't give her the material to be able to execute it.
Yeah. I will say though, like that last "Where is she?" like the really loud, raw and emotional
Primal.
primal, that's the perfect word. Was great. It literally sounded like it was from the video game. There are certain quips that Bella says where it sounds exactly like what I imagine Ellie would sound like. There's those moments she captures really, really well.
Just with the scene, I agree with Jamie. Like, I think, and I've mentioned it, and I've been quite consistent from last episode to this one, funnily enough, that I think her desire to want revenge made this scene less impactful than it could have been. In the game, from memory, like you said, you press square, whatever. Like, that's part of a game. I get it. But, like, she enters the threshold of no return. And here she's just like, just tell me where she is, man. Like, like, well, what do we, like,
Well,
I didn't
I don't
feel...
think she's that mellow, though. I don't think
Not
she's
that
that
mellow,
mellow.
Yeah, please, come on.
I'll be your friend.
Yeah, just a little hand thing like this. But no, like, I just feel that I just felt underwhelmed, I think. And again, like, you know, Dina's performance is so strong, and, you know, we can talk about them as actresses or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's the way that Ellie has been written up to this point isn't as... I just don't believe she's as strong as she was in the game. I really don't. And I think that's where I'm starting to get a little bit checked out, because I'm like, when I got to this point in the game, I don't remember. Remember, like 5 years ago, I only remember how I felt, which is a very strong connection to it. I was into it. I was feeling this. I was like, hell yeah. Like, but when I got to this in this, I was like, oh, okay. I don't know. I just don't know what they're doing with Ellie. It's starting to irk me a bit.
I also want to shout out Nora's actor. This scene in particular. I don't know if it's just the lighting or whatever it is, but like I'm excited to see her in Naughty Dog's next game now. Like, I don't know if that's why she was cast to get people like hyped for her, but I actually really enjoy what she's done in this season overall. Like,
Yeah, she's been
nothing's
great with the little that she's had, yeah.
yeah, like nothing stand out, like not Oscar worthy or anything, but like I wasn't mad at it. Like I'd play a game as her as the main character. And marking the final scene, Ellie wakes up in her bed in a flashback, with Joel entering the room and saying, "Hey, kiddo." Which honestly, I almost started crying at that scene. I did. I was like, no. Honestly, if the next episode is like mostly flashbacks, I'm definitely gonna cry. I can see myself. The next episode's the crying episode.
That's what it's called.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, from the trailer, it definitely seems to be where we're heading. Of course, you know, with the trailer, you take everything with a grain of salt. But my guess would be we'll probably get him singing the song to Ellie, maybe to open it. And then obviously we go into the museum, and it looks like we're also going to get the hospital scene.
Which I'm very excited for.
Yeah, and if they sprinkle in some interesting flashbacks along the way, maybe of more of their interactions in Jackson, I'd love to find out what happened to Eugene if we're going to be there, and maybe there is some sort of weirdness to happen in his death of like Joel killing him. Could be cool. But yeah, it looks like from the trailer that's mostly going to be the focus, but be interesting.
You might be right that we get Eugene, because that was about a year before Joel died. And I would say, not that we know exact timelines, but I feel like Joel told Ellie like probably within a year of the current events of season 2. It wasn't like ages ago, but I feel like it wasn't super recent either. It's hard to tell, but I feel like if they wanted to tell that story, that would be the perfect time, around the time where Joel tells Ellie what he did. So yeah,
And some of those flashbacks are some of my favorite parts of part two.
yeah,
And I also I was looking at
agree with
the Wikipedia page, and it seems this is going to be the episode that Druckmann himself is going to be directing as well. So either that means it's going to be completely one for one from the games in terms of these scenes, or maybe he's just going to add additional elements that he wanted to include but couldn't find a place for. So I think that could be interesting.
that's cool. I didn't know that, so that is another thing to look forward to. Berto, what are you expecting from the next episode?
I think this will be seasons 1, episode 3. Is that episode 3, the really good one? Where,
Yeah, yeah,
Is it Bill? Anyway,
Yeah, Bill and Frank.
you know how one story took the whole episode. This will happen, and I think it'll be all flashbacks. They could start with Eugene, or it could end. Start with Eugene and find out what happened, and then it goes into time travel back and forth. But I don't think so. I think it'll actually stick with Joel.
yeah.
I think it'll probably end with the whiplash to the present moment, and then it'll go on a cliffhanger, because they have quite a lot to achieve in the next couple of episodes. They don't have much left. Again, no Abby, so I think we can kind of like confirm that it's gonna be pretty much like the game. Next season will be Abby's time to shine. But again, like, I know the next episode is going to be great, just based on the fact that what Jamie said, a lot of the scenes that I loved in part 2 were with Joel, which is probably one of my frustrations from The Last of Us Part 2, that he was never really present. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to you two crying a lot too. That'll be a good time.
I see that happening because they are going to focus on how close they were, the relationship breaking down, and then seeing how it got to the point where it was in episode 1, where she told him to just stay the fuck out of my business. So I think yes, if there's an episode where I decide to cry, it's probably going to be this one. I think.
We shall see. Does anyone have any final thoughts on this episode?
I thought this was stronger than the last one. I liked it better than the last one. I do think there's, once again, just some pacing issues. So much happened in those last 15 minutes. It was just like a constant, you couldn't look away from the TV. Now, I did have a semi-rant that I would like to discuss. It does tackle elements from the game, though. So if you are listening and haven't played the game and you want to go in fresh, don't know why you're listening to Spoilercast, but anyway.
It's a Spoilercast, yeah.
So as Berto was saying, and he called it a few episodes ago, that it would be funny if Abby wasn't around. It looks like 100% that's going to be the case. And if that is the case in the game, when you finish up Ellie's story, we get the cliffhanger at the theater with Abby. Now, the thing that I am very curious about with the next season, I know this is jumping quite ahead, is we don't get a resolution to the theater until the end of Last of Us Part 2. That's when we start seeing Abby and Ellie facing off and all this. I wonder how they're going to handle that, because it doesn't make sense to leave a cliffhanger at the end of season 2 and not touch on that cliffhanger again until the end of season 3, or at least 2/3 of the way through if we then go into Santa Barbara. So I'm just very curious how they handle it, because my assumption would be season 3 would begin the way I wanted this season to start, with Abby's flashback at the hospital and with her dad. Does anyone have any thoughts on how they think they will handle it, or are they intrigued like I am as how this will go down?
I have heaps of thoughts, but Brad,
I don't
first.
think it's possible. I still don't think it's possible for them to solely base all of season 3 on Abby's perspective during what we're watching now. It just, especially if it does end on the cliffhanger at the theater and literally what happens like before they cut to Abby's side of the story. Are people gonna like it's gonna be kind of frustrating, like waiting a whole year plus the end of the season to get that resolution. Like in the game, you probably had to play through what 10 to 12 hours.
So more hours.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, but that's nothing compared to a year.
Yeah, felt like a year.
Well,
there's more than enough
to some
content for them to
people.
make the whole season 3 about Abby. Like they could start it, you know, the flashbacks and then, you know, the trek of this group returning back to Seattle. We already saw they want to like linger on things a little bit. Like we were at Jackson for 3 episodes, so they could easily more of the fallout from that, the torture. Then you've got all the Seraphite stuff that Abby gets involved with, plus the whole war in general, all leading to the massive war at the end, which then leads into Santa Barbara. There's easily enough for a season there, so could be done. But it's a weird structure. It doesn't really translate to a TV show that well.
It might though, like who knows? But it's I don't know. I feel like they could have used an extra 3 episodes in this season to like bring Abby out of the bushes a bit more, so we're not like absolutely, not that we're reliving, because like what Abby does through her perspective, there are some really like key moments to her journey as well, like meeting Lev and all that. So I'm in two minds. Like I don't know if it would have been as effective if they just added 3 episodes and then sprinkled Abby perspective into the season. Yeah, I don't know what I'd prefer until I see what they actually do with it.
Yeah, exactly. My entire rant could mean nothing in a few episodes if they don't even do that. So,
well, yeah.
But I'm interested to hear Berto's take.
Yeah.
I think if they stick to the source material, it's bad for viewership. Simple. Like you've got 2 things that are currently building: the revenge part, well, a few things, the pregnancy and the WLF war. Right? We're not going to see any of these resolved, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong, but the way it's currently trajectorying, if next episode is flashbacks, you got 2 episodes left, and there's just not enough time. And to what Jamie has been saying, we've already kind of like, not saying we've wasted time at the beginning of the season, but we've wasted a bit of time. So if it ends with no resolution to those 3 points, what do we got? We got exactly what the game happened. So next season, we have to wait a year. Jokes aside about how the game felt a year. And then you've got 7 episodes. The first 3 are dedicated to day 1, 2, and 3. One of them has to be some form of, I don't know, might be that, where they invade the island. That might be a whole episode for Abby. I don't know, right? Then you only got, that's 4. So then you got 3 more episodes left for Ellie and Abby to kind of like go through their little thing and the baby. It's such a long time to wait. I just don't know. There's no reasonable outcome in which I see here where Abby can come in to make a big difference and change the storytelling. I think we've gone too far.
It's hard to imagine what they're going to do. Like, yeah.
I deviated the whole show, but yeah, solid episode overall. I liked it better than the last episode.
No, I think it's a healthy discussion because it is seeming to be like it's heading towards the same moment-to-moment beats of the video game, which was one of the most decisive moments, regardless of how you felt, which was the whole Act 1 and Act 2 and Act 3. It's a very clearly defined almost like
structure.
an opera, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see in a few episodes, but yeah, I thought it would be interesting to bring it up now because it's definitely where I remember finishing the episode and I saw your head just floating around going, "There's no Abby." And then I was like, "Yeah, well, let's bring it up."
That, and we can't bring it up next episode because you and I will be crying the whole time. So
Oh yeah, solid.
no time for that. No. All right. Well, that marks the end of our The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 5, Feel Her Love Spoilercast. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube and leave a 5-star review on the audio streaming service of your choice so you can get the latest content sent straight to your feed. I've been your host, Brad, and you can find me at Brad_EXP. And joining me today has been Jamie.
You can follow me on Instagram, JamieX66.
And Berto.
You can find me on Instagram as pause_gamer.
Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you for the next episode. Bye.
Ciao.